Hi, second grade. So for today's article that we're going to read in our super duper magazine, Splish Splash, we're going to read the article No Water, No Problem. And that is on page 20 through 25. Okay? So that article, No Water, No Problem. So before we get started reading this article, let's just kind of activate some of our background knowledge. Now, this article is all about camels who live in the desert. Let's think, what do we remember about the desert habitat? Last year in first grade in science class, we learned about this together. So what do we know about the desert? Well, we know that the desert is a place that doesn't have a lot of water. Okay, so we know that the plants and the animals that live in the desert, they've had to adapt and change so that they can survive without a lot of water. So there are certain things about their bodies that make it easy for them to live in the desert. And we know that camels are a desert animal. And so we know that they must have special things about the way their bodies are made to help them live in the desert. All right. So I also put a whole video, a National Geographic video all about camels that you could watch. You could pause this and go back and watch that first to kind of maybe help you get a sneak peek of the contents of the article, or just to kind of give you some more background knowledge. All right. So some of the words that we're going to see in this article, we are going to see desert. We know that that is a dry place where very little rain falls. We remember that from science class. Hump. We know a hump is a rounded lump of fatty tissue on a camel's back. Okay, and you're going to learn about two different kinds of camels. Okay, camels have humps, but different kinds of camels have different kinds of humps. And here's a kind of fun trick. So there are two kinds of camels. The first kind of camel is called a dromedary camel. All right, and that is a camel that has one hump, like that. And the second kind of, and I'll write the name, dromedary camel. All right, they have one hump. The second kind of camel is called a Bactrian camel. And I think I'm saying those words correctly. This is a Bactrian camel. And it has two humps. Now, the way that I keep it straight in my mind which camel is which is if you look at the word dromedary, it starts with a D. And if you take the D and you turn it on its side, it looks like one hump. The word Bactrian starts with a B, and if you take the first letter B and put it on its side, it looks like two humps. So that's how I remember dromedary is one hump and Bactrian is two humps, because the letter D kind of just has one hump and the letter B has two humps. That's a kind of fun little trick there. All right. So humps, that's an important word. Hooves, those are the feet of the camel. So some animals have hard feet, like camels, horses, cows. Those are some of the words that we're going to see. Another word we're going to see is oasis. An oasis is a place in the desert where there is water and green growing plants. So we know that most of the desert is a lot of sand. It's very dry. It's very hot. But there are special little spots in the desert that are called oases, where maybe there's a small body of water, some growing plants. All right? So you're going to read this article to yourself and pay really close attention to the ways that the camel's body help it survive in the desert. All right? You're also going to see a kind of funny expression. It says, no sweat. There's a heading of a part of the article that says no sweat. Okay? What do you think that means? Do you think it means that the camel never sweats? Or do you think it's a silly way of saying something else? It's a silly way of saying something else. So the expression no sweat, it's a silly way of saying something is easy for you. It's not hard at all. All right. So if I were to, what's a good example? Oh, I know. If I were to make you dinner and cooking is really easy for me, and you would say, oh, thank you so much. It was so nice of you to make me dinner. I would say, you're welcome. No sweat. You're welcome. It wasn't hard for me. All right. So no sweat is just another way. It's a silly way of saying something is easy for you. So I wonder if that part of the article is going to tell us about some things that are easy for the camel. So it's kind of like a double joke. All right. Because deserts are hot and no sweat is like a silly way of saying something was easy for you. So sometimes we have silly little expressions like that. Yeah, so after you finish reading the article, friends, then you can do the activity page in your Superkid magazine reading packet that goes with it, all right? And it's pretty straightforward. It's got a bunch of different boxes with questions for you to answer in complete sentences. You might have to write a little bit small. If you have trouble fitting, if you don't think you're going to be able to fit your sentences on this piece of paper, that's okay. You could maybe write the answers on a piece of notebook paper if that's easy for you. So the questions are, where do camels live? What makes them special? Okay, so remember when you're answering questions about a noun, a person, place, or a thing, you can replace the name of the noun with a pronoun. All right, so if it's more than one thing, you can say they. If it's one thing, you can say it, right? Because we don't know if they're talking about boy or girl camels, so we can just say they and it. So where do camels live? Instead of saying camels live in blank and then giving me the answer, you could say they live in, because we know you're talking about camels. So sometimes subbing in a pronoun for a noun, it makes it a little bit easier to answer the questions. It gives us a little bit more space, just like our Schoolhouse Rock pronoun song about the man who had the really silly kangaroo with the really silly names, the sarsaparilla, Sue, something, something, something. I can't remember, the names are so silly. He subbed in pronouns and made it easier to talk about. So where do camels live? What makes them special? What does a camel's lashes do? They do blah. All right. Tell me about a camel's hooves. So that, just tell me 2 or 3 things about what a camel's hooves are like. They are like blah. All right. You can tell me what they look like, feel like, sound like, smell like, taste like, if the article tells us that, or what it makes easy for the camel, what hooves are helpful for the camel to do. And then the other box says, tell me how a camel and humans are the same. How are they different? So just give me one similarity and one difference, okay? They are the same because blah. They are different because blah, all right? Why do camels' humps droop? So droop, if something droops, boys and girls, it kind of wilts. Like if you don't give a flower water, it will droop. It will kind of bend over and get saggy. All right, I'm drooping. All right. And how long does a camel go without water? How many gallons can they drink? All right. So again, please use capital letters. I don't want sentences that say, where does camels live? And you write desert. Okay. We are too big to be doing one-word answers. You are almost 3rd graders, so I need capital letters because Mr. Henty's, I need complete sentences that have capital letters and ending marks, of course, because Mr. Henty's, he's going to want complete sentences next year in 3rd grade, right? He's a big kid teacher. So no, so everything has to be all big kid stuff all the time. It's not like Miss Jody where I'm like an in-between teacher where sometimes we can do a little bit of little kid stuff and sometimes we do a little bit of big kid stuff. In third grade, you are all big kid. So always complete sentences. All right, boys and girls, I hope you like this article. Make sure to check out the National Geographic video I posted as well. I think you'll find it interesting and it might give you some extra information. All right, boys and girls, bye.